All right, greetings everybody. I am Tieesha Essex. I'm back with a great video. This video was a little emotional for me today. Shout out to everybody who tagged me in and shared it with me. And I've been away for a moment. I've been, watching the proceedings on the prosecution of Derek Chauvin up in Minnesota, and I'm just kind of taking all that in. But I want to let you know, I thank you for all of your support and your contributions for New Black Media Appreciation Month. At the same time, I'm also observing Celebrate Black Men for April of 2021. And tonight I have a magnificent brother here with me. And I found out about him through our sister, Nicole's View, over on YouTube as well. So subscribe to her and shout out to her. Like I said, New Black Media Appreciation Month. This is great. But tonight, I'm going to talk to you about the traffic stop in the town of Windsor, Virginia. And many people tagged me in that because not only that was the area where I served active duty, but also the area where, I lived. And I was also a police officer in that Hampton Roads area. So a lot of people, they tag me and, they keep me abreast of the happenings over there. So in this particular case, I had some family that's stationed at Fort Eustis, Virginia, that's right up the street. They sent me this, and I'm like, okay, this hits home. So I invited, like I said, a great brother, magnificent brother, attorney Gavin Richard, and he is a practicing attorney out of New Orleans, Louisiana, and he's joining me now. How are you doing?
I am doing great, my dear. Thank you. Thank you for having me come on. Hello to all your viewers and your subscribers. Greetings all, and yes, this is me, Gavin Richard.
And I can brag on you, but for those who don't know you, can you tell them your channel here on YouTube, your content, what you do, who you are, because you are a Black man to be celebrated.
Thank you very much. And you are a Black queen to be exalted as well. My YouTube channel is gboot2786. That's gboot2786. I will put it in the private chat for everyone. My Cash App is in the ticker at the bottom, Gavin Richard Esquire. I do YouTube. On YouTube, my content, we talk about various things. I do live stream Tuesdays, Thursdays, and then Sundays, of which Tieesha is supposed to be a guest on my show tomorrow, as we're talking about gun control and House Bill 127. But we'll also be, I talk about a host of various things, celebrity news, pop culture. We do all kinds of stuff. Especially what's going on. We talk about some criminal proceedings that we have, including this thing with George Floyd. So I do a host of things, and all the while running my own law office here in New Orleans and in Baton Rouge. I practice across the state. I also, I have a host of things that I do. I guess it's a little West Indian on my other side of the family, I guess. Hey, man, for the Headleys, like in Living Color. So I just do a host of things. I hustle. I'm a writer as well, and this is not my first time on this channel and this platform, but I love Tieesha and her content and what she's doing. So thank you for having me come on again.
And forgive me for the delay in switching screens. I'm unmuting myself and switching screens, but what I just found out as well, I think I'm going to let us save that till the end because I just found out something new about you. I'm playing your stream on my playlist. I'm like, huh? But you can also find Attorney Richard and the Honorable Judge Joe Brown on his channel as well. He does a phenomenal job of interviewing and just letting the judge just rule. Okay, so if you want to keep abreast with the Honorable Judge Joe Brown, you can find him on Attorney Richard's channel as well.
Yeah, so, let me say a note on that too. Judges, if you guys also want to see, I'm on Judge's show every Friday. Valerie Denise Jones, I have to shout her out. She has a show that she produces. She produces that show, and you can call in. I can get the call-in number for you all in a second, a little later on, that everybody can go and listen into the Judge Joe Brown show on Fridays. They've actually taken Judge off the, Judge cannot be back on the air because of certain stances that he has, particular against, let's just say, a certain group of people. I'll give you a hint: Taste the Rainbow.
And yeah, that's the thing too. Shout out to her. And she just had an interview with Judge Joe Brown and Attorney Awesome. We have some great attorneys in our network. We have Attorney Gavin. He's in New Orleans, Baton Rouge area. You have Attorney Awesome down in Jacksonville. So yes, we have a great network, and I would definitely link them in the description. I have a link for your channel as well in the description. So click that, subscribe, show your support. Okay.
Most definitely.
And so too, if you can, get into Attorney Awesome's inbox and let him know, like, hey, you want to come over here? I need to talk to you. So I got his books actually right there. Those are his books. So I need to get them here. Tonight, we are going to discuss an incident that occurred back in December of 2020 out in the town of Windsor, Virginia. And like I said, I was stationed in that area, and I was also a police officer there as well. So when it comes to, traffic stops, traffic tickets, arrests, I'm that person where, people call me, hey, let me run this by you, or Attorney Gavin, they'll contact you, well, I know they don't have to pay a retainer to talk to you, but when you see different things like this come up, it's like, wow, I know as an attorney, can you talk to us being an attorney in this, this climate we have right now where everything, we're able to be that witness to these situations. Can you talk to us about, we have the George Floyd trial, of his murder happening right now. Then we have these different body cam videos coming up. How is it being an attorney in this climate right now?
Well, the system, let me say this, system has actually done what it's been doing for a long time. Uh, as I'm looking at what is going on and transpiring, I guess we're talking about the incident that occurred with Miss Lieutenant Gonzario. It is a very difficult time, especially as a black attorney, as a black man, to watch the things that transpire, because I first and foremost have knowledge of the law and how things can possibly go and what goes on, and also just to know, sadly, what has transpired in these difficult situations involving young black men in particular, and black men in general, in particular interactions with the police. Of course, we had the death of Andre Wright that happened over the weekend. We also have the incident with the lieutenant, as you mentioned, in Virginia, and this trial that's going on with George Floyd's. George Floyd is not on trial, but Derek Chauvin is the defendant in this case. And of course, the way it looks is that they have, as the only defense they can do is put Mr. Floyd on trial, talking about his drug use, his heart disease, and all of these other factors and so forth. They're trying to link a causation matter into the death of George Floyd to say that it would absolve rather Derek Chauvin from any wrongdoing. It's I also, Tieesha, I teach criminal law as an adjunct professor. So I enjoy, I guess, teaching my students about criminal law and things that they should learn. But I caution, also them with regards to watching the media, and everybody else too, because media does try to indoctrinate people to feel a certain way. They play on your feelings, they're playing on your heartstrings with some of these things, and it's important not to be to divorce yourself from emotions at times. But I also know it's hard because we see this often. We don't control our mainstream media. We don't control movies or anything like that. Our media, which basically controls us, and media, it's called television programming for a reason. But it's very interesting times to live in now. That we're seeing this play out. Of course, last year everybody was home. We couldn't go anywhere in the middle of this pandemic. And tragically, with this George Floyd situation, that happened right in the middle of the pandemic that was going on back in May of 2020. So, like I said earlier, and I was talking to you before we began, 2020 has been a downer of a year for everyone. And I think that we certainly we are learning more and more about the dangers of being a black man in America if you're not familiar with it. And we can try, I guess, to navigate and get others to understand about what we're dealing with, what's happening, and how we can continue to push forward.
And I'm really happy you brought that up because, like I said, many times I have ideas for videos, but it's just my emotions. You know, I relive certain things and I'm like, you know,
Yeah.
I don't want to go live and, you know, just be full of emotions. I want to use that logic. And that's one thing why I celebrate the Black man, because although we have our emotions, our Black man brings the logic, and that's how we balance each other out. So I have the complaint here in my hand. It's 30 pages I printed up, and it was filed by the attorney of Karan Nazario. He's the plaintiff against Joe Gutierrez and Daniel Crocker, police officers for the town of Windsor. One is now a former police officer. So that takes us to our that takes us to our first instance, the circumstances around this traffic stop. And I'm not going to play the video here because a lot of times when you play certain videos, they come back and say, oh, this is our content, and they take it away, you know. And for me, that may give me my second copyright strike, so we're not going to do that. But I will put links for you to go and view it. But I was moved to do this video today on this topic because I saw a lot of people, you know, blaming, you know, just putting the blame, okay, putting it everywhere. And I actually sat in that driver's seat of a police vehicle. I worked third shift for over 3 years, you know, so I know the circumstances, how it feels to initiate a traffic stop, conduct that traffic stop. And I've been in felony stops as well. You know, I've done that. And I want to bring another point of view to this, not just, you know, we're here to collect views and, you know, super chats. We're not doing that. We're here to bring you a logical point of view from people who sat in that seat. And then also sat in that seat as a driver with the burps and cherries behind you, okay? So the circumstances surrounded this stop. The criminal complaint alleges that this occurred, let's see, where are we? This was in December of 2020. And this was in the town of Windsor, where police officers that were named initiated a traffic stop for a vehicle without a license plate displayed. And in this area of Windsor, Virginia, it's a small town in the 757. We all know the 757 consists of the 7 cities, but also consists of the smaller towns around it. But we later find out that it was called in as a felony stop. So and it later turned out to kind of sort of not be a felony stop, and there was a use of force applied. The driver was so-called detained, arrested, then unarrested, you know, and it just became a huge, for lack of a better word, a shit show. So in this video, we're going to talk to you from an attorney's point of view, a former law enforcement point of view, also a veteran's point of view as well, and then we're going to give you some tips as well to help you stay safe. So I encourage you to do some background research on yourself, and I'll also put a link for the complaint as well for civil action. But Attorney Gavin, our first topic is circumstances surrounding a traffic stop. And from a law enforcement point of view, a traffic stop is anything as far as the Code of Virginia, anything in the 46 codes. And I advise everyone, no matter what state you live in, purchase a code book, okay? Say that again?
I said right.
Yes, purchase a code book that tells you everything from civil, family law, criminal, everything. Purchase a code book. You find that at LexisNexis. There will be a link in the description. LexisNexis. And this was failure to display a license plate. And I'm sure in Louisiana, as well as many other states, that's not a felony, correct?
It is not a felony. Let me say this too. You don't even have to buy a code book like a hard copy. This is, let me show you. This is, as the criminal defense lawyer, this is West's Louisiana statutory criminal law and procedure. Of course, this is old, it's 2019. Mm-hmm. But you can actually just go to your online, actually, and go to your legislature's website Here in Louisiana, we call it legis. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Can y'all? You can hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I don't know what happened there. Yeah, legis.la.gov. That is our Louisiana website. But yeah, LexisNexis, I am familiar with them as well because I pay them a lot of money to do research and aspect. But without a doubt, yeah, that is not a felony. That's a traffic stop. And what you saw in that video, I have had police officers come on my channel before. Uh, and a friend of mine, Ken Williams, he is a former retired Brockton, Massachusetts cop, and he's also testified as an expert on police force, excessive use of force, and things of that nature, wrongful death cases. He is an expert in this. And one thing he's always said to me, when you can all look at this, I had him come on when the George Floyd incident started, is that police officers, most of these riots that we see take place in America, they're from police officers escalating these crimes. This was something, and you look at the video, the cops completely escalated the entire situation. I mean, you pull guns out. Number one, he pulled off into an area that was well lit, which is what people tend to do, especially at night, so that the officer could see his hands.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there would be no question, obviously, if he were pulled off the side of the road and it's dark. Well, it'd be hard for the officer to see anything. What's to say that the officer will claim he mistakes a cell phone for a gun, like they tend to do, things of that nature. And as I looked at the video, of course, the most damning thing for me, why that pig got fired, because that's what he is. He's a pig. He actually threatened this lieutenant in the army, and even talked about his military service. He said, "Well, I'm serving this country actively," and he says, "Yeah, well, so am I." And he says, "You're about to get the lightning." He said something about
grab the lightning.
You're about to grab the lightning, and said, and they gave conflicting orders as well. If you looked at it, he had his hands up. He put them out the window as the officer commanded. But then they said, "Keep your hands where I can see them. Get out of the car." You can't get your hand in order to get out of the car. Number one, you got to move your hands in order to unlock the vehicle. You also have to unlock your seatbelt, and you have to move your seatbelt, make it visible, which is not an easy thing to do. So he was obviously, and of course, even they dropped the charges immediately afterwards because they knew they had messed up, and the officer even admitted, like, this stuff happens all the time. But they threatened him with further action if he didn't dismiss this as a simple misunderstanding. Clearly, they were looking to escalate this situation and kill this man, lieutenant. I'm glad he survived. I know he was, but one mistake I will tell people, and that he did, do not question, like with the officers, you don't have to answer any questions. Don't question them either. Keep your hands up, say, I cannot open the car door. I'd rather you do it because I'm fearing for my life. I don't have any weapons on me. I won't say any more. Typically, because what's going to happen is that they will approach the car door and try and get you out as soon as you can. And I would not move, because had he moved, then they could have claimed that I feared for my life. When you talk about circumstances during a traffic stop, first and foremost, when you're considered stopped or detained, is when, number one, the sirens come on. There's the flashing lights on top of the cars, of course, that sing, or they give verbal commands telling you to pull over, things of that nature. And that would constitute a traffic when you're officially stopped. There's a difference between being a seizure and a search as well. And I don't know if we're going to talk about that, because they did search his car.
Yes. We're going to get into the Fourth Amendment searches in a little bit.
Get a copy of your Constitution as well, people.
Absolutely. Fourth Amendment search and seizure and things like that. And I'm so happy to have you here. Like, everybody, please go subscribe to this channel. And, we have a professional right here. And one thing I want to talk about is a traffic stop at nighttime on third shift. Okay, it's a different element. You don't have that natural light of the sun. But when you're on midnight shift and you see traffic, you're out, you see vehicles. There was obviously other vehicles on the road, and I say that in this stretch of highway, the only other business open for business was that gas station. It was properly lit, and you can hear the officers relaying to dispatch that his speed was not excessive. He was not disregarding, traffic signals, putting the public at risk. He either maintained or slowed down, his speed. And one thing that I used to realize was that, you want people to get off the road. You don't want people, because when people just stop as soon as you put your lights and sirens on, it becomes a traffic hazard. So you want people to pull off the road. You want people to pull into a well-lit area. And, if they happen to do something suspicious, like, hey, pull into a dark area, speed up. There's a difference between failure to immediately yield and evade and elude. And apparently he was not evading and eluding. He just failed to immediately yield. But it's nighttime. You're in the boondocks of Windsor, Virginia. Okay, so I would have assumed two things. One, okay, yeah, they're doing this for safety, and especially the climate that we have right now, where you have witnesses. It's open. It takes my heightened alert level down. Like, thank you. Then also too, the only time I had people who would immediately pull over or wait to pull over into like a privately owned place like a Kmart or the Wawa, they just had a suspended license. I won't tow your car if it's legally parked. That's not a crime. Okay. Yeah. So Attorney Gavin, can you talk to us about evading and eluding versus just failure to immediately yield? And that's all we got.
Sure. Let me just make a disclaimer just right quick. The views heard in this podcast from me does not constitute an attorney-client relationship.
Absolutely. And I'm not a paid attorney spokesperson. I'm not a law enforcement officer. I'm just giving my commentary as a citizen. Okay, don't take anything I say seriously. Go research. Don't do it.
Same here. I'm just giving my commentary. So you said
everything is allegedly. Everything is alleged. Okay, so they have their day in court. Alleged.
Well, allegedly, yeah, of course. Yeah, they're innocent until proven guilty. Well, I mean, they got fired. I don't know if there are any charges that are pending on him, but there possibly could be, I think, could be charges on these officers if they wanted to. They knew that this man was an Army officer, and they drew their weapons, and that is aggravated assault. It's what we call here in Louisiana. We have different, I know you guys use the model penal code, I believe, outside Louisiana and in different states there. Model penal code, of course, is the guidance for all criminal laws across the country. In Louisiana, we do, the people mistakenly say Napoleonic code as far as criminal, but our law is based on Roman civil law. But criminal code is not civil, criminal is not civil law, but either way, I digress. To answer your question, though, we call it flight from an officer, though. Basically, that means when you are given verbal commands to stop, when you're given commands to cease and desist, basically, by the police, that you're being detained. If they tell you you're being detained, you have to come to the stop. If not, and you go further and further, and you keep the traffic, the police chase going further and further, then they throw that charge on you. We've seen actually recently, I believe up in Los Angeles, where there was a man who was riding a truck, and eventually he got arrested for what you call evading or eluding in a high-speed chase. Those things typically happen. And what they look for is, number one, if you're speeding, even after the sirens have been called, if you're not slowing down, if you don't come to a stop, how long it takes. The man, what we saw from the dear lieutenant, especially Lieutenant Nazario, was that he was completely calm, pulled over into a lighted area, as we stated earlier. He was not resisting arrest in any way. He was obeying the officer's commands, and like I said earlier, they had contradictory commands as well. So it's hard to do one thing when you have another officer telling you another, and they both got their guns pointed at you. So you don't know exactly what to do. So he just stayed still and played it as safe as he could. So in situations like that, when you're talking about when you're stopped and detained, is the moment those sirens come on, the moment that they order you to pull over, you're supposed to pull over immediately. Uh, it's best, yes, to, and some people get pulled over in the middle of nowhere, so it's hard to say to go to the nearest lighted area because then you try to do that or go to an area where you can be where it's safe, then they can still try and throw that charge on you. So it's best to pull over to the shoulder of the road as soon as possible in those situations. If you're near a gas station where they can pull you over when those sirens come on, I would suggest that you do that and live to fight the day in another day, fight in court, and if they give you a traffic ticket. So I'd rather you have a traffic ticket than be carried by six.
Absolutely. And that's one thing too, riding at night. Like we had certain tactics to approach a vehicle at night. I approach vehicles differently on third shift than I did on first shift. And night shift, okay, with this here. So I'm gonna start. If this was me, Tieesha Essex, in the driver's seat of that patrol vehicle, I noticed one thing. The officer did not utilize his spotlight. Like whenever I activated a traffic stop at night, I use, the blueberries, which were the blue lights. I also put on, I put on every light available. Blue lights, alley lights, the spotlights, the takedown lights. It illuminated that entire vehicle. And I believe that the officer did see that tag in the back window. This was a dealer's tag. Now think about it. Imagine yourself in Mr. Nazario's place. You just bought a new vehicle. The dealer puts that temporary tag in the back window. So you're driving your new vehicle. You signaled every turn. You're going the speed limit. You're in uniform, headed to work. You have your pet in the vehicle. You're as legal as can be. You're getting pulled over. It's like, what the hell did I do? What the hell did I do? So I expect that driver to be a little bit on the defensive. And so I did not observe any takedown lights used. It's just playing that. And I've had times before where, you'll look where the license plate is supposed to be and you don't see the tag and you let dispatch know no tag displayed. Okay, call into dispatch. Traffic stop initiated. I expect it to be within 50 yards. Okay, dispatch, be advised, vehicle is failing to immediately yield. Then I expect how I used to have it. My supervisor would come on, what are your charges? Because the supervisor is getting ready to go get in their car and come to you. What are your charges? Anticipating a pursuit. What are your charges? Failure to display tag. Okay. If that vehicle speeds, you're going to call in the vehicle, your current speeds. You're going to call in your direction of travel, what you got, the occupants. If that vehicle does speed off, there's certain jurisdictions where pursuits are not allowed. The most recent one I read about was Warner Robins. In the city of Warner Robins, Georgia, they do not allow pursuits. It's too damn dangerous.
Really?
It's not going to work. Yes, Warner Robins. There is a case law where a civilian was killed while police were engaged in a pursuit because once you activate what I'm having an attorney here to verify. Once you initiate the traffic stop, whatever that vehicle does, the liability could fall on the department. And sometimes it's not worth it. As far as, if this had to turn into a pursuit, which it was just fair to immediately yield, you can justify that. Okay, we're maintaining the same speed. The driver is not running red lights or, trying to, maneuver and get away. Okay, there. Also approaching a vehicle. Now, they called this in as a felony stop, which clearly was not, because me being a backup officer, not even the officer that initially observed the violation, a backup officer, what do you have? Okay, what do you have? And where they eventually ended up at that gas station, called it in as a felony stop. And I have this picture up on the screen that shows a diagram of these this simulation of officers initiating a high risk felony stop. And that takes us to our next point. What is a felony stop? And the difference between equipment violation, and I'm gonna go back to this other screen, and it's gonna show us the Virginia code for failure to display a license plate. And pretty much, if you take a picture of your car and bring it to court that day, the judge is going to throw it out. I mean, has the ability to throw it out, pretty much. So this is not a felony stop by any means. It's an equipment violation, but he actually had it. So if you had it, the officer just couldn't put his saw it, okay, I'm gonna let you go. I see your plates right there. It's a dealer tag. I understand what happens at the dealership. I understand that temporary tags get stolen. Goodbye. Can you talk to us about? I know I put out a lot, but I need an attorney's professional point of view.
Yeah, that's a lot. Let's load it. Let's take it one by one.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, a traffic stop. Okay. When you talk about a felony stop, that's called a high-risk stop. That's when the officers are in chase of a vehicle that contains passengers that they believe committed or are about to commit a serious felony or serious crime. So, if you want to give a perfect example of a felony stop, would be the O.J. Simpson case, or the O.J. chase, although the Bronco chase. Although in truthfulness, that was some media hype that they did, in all honesty, about that, but we can talk about that at a later date. But like you have an armed robbery that's in effect, someone that robs a bank, and the police are engaged in a police chase of those individuals. A prison escape, that's called aggravated escaping here in Louisiana. That would be an example of what would constitute your felony stop. Not a failure to display a license plate. That is a traffic violation, at best a equipment violation, as you say, because that could be displayed, which it was displayed, but had the officers just put their light on the license plate, they would have seen that. Honestly, I think what they saw was a black man driving a nice vehicle they think didn't deserve that, and they stopped him. And you saw by the course of action that they took why this was happening. All of this stuff could have been prevented. I don't understand why, again, I'm not trying to mix up the different scenarios and so forth, but like we say, again, police officers escalate these situations. And typically, as I'm sure know, Tieesha, you deal with people who are on the force who are not educated. There are people who I'm just being real. There are some people on the force who are not educated. There's some who I think have PTSD from on the job, from things that they have seen, and it is factored into their psyche about how they deal with the public. This, like I say again, they escalates this situation, it seems, allegedly. I certainly, think that it could have been avoided, and actually was something that could have lasted no more than 3 to 5 minutes. And instead, this thing went on, I'm sure, for well over that amount. We don't see exactly the time period, but, the body camera footage that was rolled by the two officers, Gutierrez and Crocker, that's the other officer, that's the young one. But these, but he's lucky to be alive at this point. So that's the difference between a high-risk felony stop and a traffic stop or a equipment stop, as you pointed out in this scenario.
And if I can, I have this picture up here. So when you go back and watch that body cam footage, you will see that, okay, having a senior officer, and that's one thing is, I have an issue when I see senior officers, and I'm going to say something, and I stand by this wholeheartedly. Never trust a fat Marine, okay? But like I said, I've done felony stops. And while this felony stop was going on, there was bullets flying before we got into it. And the way when you look at the screen, the officers are in a position of cover. They are behind that engine block, the tire rail, the tires. because had that vehicle, if it is a so-called felony stop, if you're anticipating, fire coming back at you. And the first day of my academy with the city of Newport News, now no longer affiliated with the city of Newport News, I'm just saying, my first day of the academy, and it's ironic that I live here in Georgia and I drive all these highways and byways. They showed us the video of Deputy Dinkheimer. I'm sorry if I pronounced his name wrong. And he was a deputy who was on a traffic stop with a Vietnam veteran. He was white, and this Vietnam veteran guy, he told the officer, you can go and watch the video here on YouTube. I will link that in the description. That was the first video they showed us in the academy in the first hour of being there, where he had a chance to pretty much put his rifle together and execute the deputy. You know what I'm saying? So they show us that first thing in the academy. So they want you to have this heightened sense of awareness and this heightened sense of danger. However, you don't approach every vehicle like that. Like I said, I have had training where you approach a vehicle. You don't have to approach a vehicle on the driver's side. On midnight shift, I will pull over a vehicle. I activate all the lights because that is a light shield for me. I'm going to walk behind my vehicle, and at times I approach on the passenger side. I may not have a backup unit there with me, but I'm observing. I'm looking. I'm at that B pillar, that A pillar. I'm looking in. And, you kind of surprise the driver. You're like, hey, how you doing? I am Officer Essex. I stopped your vehicle. That's one thing I can't stand is when they play 50 questions on why they stopped your vehicle. But getting back to this so-called high-risk stop, you'll see the officers leave the cover of their vehicle, approach the vehicle. There was no need to approach, guns drawn. The vehicle did not evade, elude, or nothing. They got guns pulled, called a felony stop for an equipment violation a judge can throw out. And then also we're in the era of COVID. So, if there's such a danger of contracting COVID, they approach with no mask, just came up on him. But they did not use the most valuable resource when you're on a felony traffic stop, which is the PA system. Okay. They're yelling and hollering, screaming, heightening the situation versus pick up the PA driver. One officer making communications with the driver. This is the so-and-so PD. Please turn off your vehicle. Please, with your left hand, open the door. Please exit the vehicle with your hands up. Right. But it didn't have to go there because it wasn't a felony stop, okay? Stop the vehicle, approach whichever tactic you want to use.
Let me say this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, let me interrupt you too.
Go right ahead.
A case that you all should look at, I'll put it in the chat, is Arizona versus Gant.
Yes.
This was a Supreme Court decision back in 2009. They held that the Fourth, and we'll get into it, but the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution. This was an addition to a case they did called New York versus Belton. But they said that under the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, it requires law enforcement officers to demonstrate an actual or continuing threat to their safety posed by an arrestee or need to preserve evidence related to the crime of arrest from tampering by the arrestee. That's called it justifies a warrantless search, a search incident to arrest that they try to do. And then we'll get to that. But you have to, in that situation, you have to demonstrate that there's a threat to safety or need to preserve evidence. Again, I didn't see that there was a need. I didn't see there was a need to preserve evidence because this was as you stated, a traffic violation. This was not a high-speed chase. Again, they escalated this.
Absolutely. And that takes us to the use of force. In this video, you are going to see I did a video a while back about signs of imminent assault by cop, thin blue ices, and that's also linked in the description. I did a video a short while ago on the effects of oleoresin capsicum, also known as OC spray. So you can check out those videos as well. So we have attorney Gavin Richard here, and he is a practicing attorney in the New Orleans, Baton Rouge area. So make sure you go and subscribe to his channel, G Boot, here on YouTube. And also, if you want to contribute to him for New Black Media Appreciation Month, and also for Celebrate Black Men of April 2021. So can you talk to us about the Graham factors and use of force? That's so imperative right now because we're watching the prosecution of Derek Chauvin and the application of Graham, and that comes up with this term called the SURF factors. So many people may not be aware of the application of Grant and also the SURF factors in regards to use of force. So can you talk to us about that as well from an attorney's perspective?
Okay, sure. So you want to talk about the Derek Chauvin case?
Just use of force, the Graham factors, and SURF when it comes to the application of use of force in this situation in Windsor, Virginia. And you can also touch on that case as well with Derek Chauvin. Just tie it all up into one if you can.
Okay. Yeah. Well, certainly. Well, tying it in with the Graham versus Connor, that's what you're talking about, the Graham factors.
Absolutely.
That was the case back in the 80s where the court determined that there had to be an objective reasonableness standard that should apply to a civilian's claim that law enforcement used excessive force in the course of making an arrest, an investigatory stop, or other seizure of this person. For instance, when we're talking about a stop, if a police officer stops an individual, the stop cannot be longer than a reasonable amount of time. So if you're talking about stopping someone, for instance, for a brake tag violation, if you're stopping them for a traffic ticket, if you say they're speeding, it's unreasonable to hold a person for over, I would say, even 20 minutes.
Absolutely.
Unless they can prove that there's some type of other criminal investigation that happens. One crime going on, excuse me. What I can tell you is that, number one, if you get stopped by the police, do not tell them, was I speeding, officer, or what's going on? Say, why would you pull, officer? What's the problem? And if they ask, why I stopped you, that's a trick question that they do, as you're familiar with, Tieesha, because what that means is that they're asking you to basically tell on yourself. And of course, under the Fifth Amendment, you have a right against, it prevents the self-incrimination. You have a right to refuse to answer questions. So please don't answer that, because that's a setup, that's a trick. Now, what they stated here and what happened with Graham, I believe Graham was leaving a convenience store. And he entered and left quickly, and returning to his friend's vehicle, they drove away from the store, and a police officer had observed Graham's behavior and saw he was suspicious. So he pulls them over for what he calls an investigative stop. And during the police encounter, Graham supposedly resisted arrest but was having a medical issue, and he ended up being severely beaten. He had contusions on his wrists. He had a broken foot, a bruised forehead, and injured shoulder. And he filed a federal lawsuit against Connor and the other officers, alleging that the use of force during the investigative stop was excessive and violated his rights. So the outcome of this case said objective reasonableness test, which examines an officer's actions. And of course, over time, it's evolved. That could be summed up as given the facts known at the time, would a similarly trained and experienced officer respond in a similar fashion or reasonably stand? That's the standard. So given the facts known at that time, would a similarly trained and experienced officer respond in a similar situation? Similar fashion. They're actually trying to do that now, even in the wake of the Derek Chauvin trial. I'm sorry, because I'm saying George Floyd when George Floyd is not the one on trial. Derek Chauvin is.
I do that as well because the media has conditioned us to put the victim on trial, but we are reversing that. So thank you so much.
Right. Derek Chauvin is the one that is on trial, not George Floyd. So what's happening, essentially, Tieesha, what the attorney is doing, and I understand what he's doing. This is his job. he's trying to make a causation defense, and he's even asked those same questions because remember they're talking about the delay in medical care. There were questions that they asked even the experts and other police officers. Would you have done the same thing, especially with the crowd? The fact was the crowd unruly and calling. They interviewed members of the people that were outside that Cup's food store who were talking about how the use of force was unfair and saying all these things about Floyd, but saying, well, you all were unruly. Isn't that right? Didn't you call him a bitch? Didn't you call him a punk? Derek Chauvin a punk and all of these other things. And if you notice, one of the brothers who was an MMA fighter, he actually said, well, if that's what's on the tape, that's what's on the tape. He was being hostile with the defense attorney. But that's what you're seeing now. And again, I don't even see it to the point of an investigative stop, because what were they investigating? What was the purpose of all of this? If this is a traffic stop, then you make it a traffic stop. Was it necessary to have two officers from reading the complaint? The fat police officer was the one who joined in and just escalated. Gutierrez, he was the one that escalated it. Now he did get fired, and we saw the body camera footage released. But you know something, we have it. I think a lot of people think nowadays that because they have served in the military, and no offense to those that have served or anything like that, and also those who are biracial, but they seem to think that will absolve blackness. It doesn't. That this will absolve you from being looked at similarly because you wear that camouflaged uniform on. It doesn't. You can look at prime examples of black veterans. We saw last year there was a pregnant black veteran, her and another black female veteran she was pregnant, if I'm not mistaken, where they went to Applebee's, and this white woman was calling them all sorts of things. In fact, people ran her business into the ground. She had so many 1 stars on Yelp as a result of that. I see the picture of Isaac Woodard Jr., and I guess you're going to get into Isaac.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brad, because you covered a lot. The Arizona v. Gantt, the Graham factors, as well as, we touched on use of force, and we saw in the video the officers came out of their car saying this was a felony traffic stop, which it wasn't. So they heightened that situation. I'm pretty sure had this been a regular, I won't say regular because it's regular, routine, whatever, but treated this at the lowest level possible on the use of force continuum, which is officers presence, approach the vehicle. And you got to remember, like, I lived in the same city I worked, and my son went to school in the same city I worked. I wasn't ducking and dodging nobody. And I knew that pretty much everybody I encountered was my neighbor. Okay. So I treated, everybody as such. Approaching that vehicle, you see a uniform. Okay. Most likely this person has a security clearance. You know what I'm saying? It's highly unlikely that they would, do anything felonious or anything like that, but you still have confidence in your abilities. You control that situation. And shout out to my mentor. She's been policing since the 80s, since the decade I was born. And she was saying after Rodney King, they came out with the whole verbal judo thing. So verbal judo is a book where you can use verbal de-escalation and things like that. So make sure you want to go check that out as well. I'll put a link in the description. But approaching the vehicle, it was always at my advantage. Like I said, you have those protections, those tactics to approach a house, approach a vehicle. And I found many times it worked in my advantage being, a police woman. I approached the vehicle. Hey, how you doing? I'm Officer Essex. They're not expecting it. They're like, oh, hey, how you doing? It's like cool. I'm like, oh, this is about to be a good traffic stop. We're going to be pleasant. It's going to be a great interaction with another citizen. But the embarrassment you put on someone removing them out of their car, there's cars driving by, their neighbors see them, their child's teacher could see them. But you have that respect for, that person that you encounter. And I always had this thing because, I was a police woman, I happen to get into a lot of, elevated uses of force. And I always wanted the public to see, okay, that officer treated me with respect. If she's not able to get to her radio, I'll call dispatch to get additional officers to her. Not versus, you know what? She treated me like shit. Turn your back, and I continue fighting for another couple minutes. But with this here, we observed Officer Gutierrez. He started with the firearm. They left the cover and protection of their vehicle. So obviously, they leave the cover of their vehicles on a so-called felony stop. The threat must not have been there. Okay, you see his hands. I talked to you before. When I'm traveling armed, I have the vehicle. How to respond on a traffic stop when you're legally armed. I cut on all the lights in the vehicle, roll down all the windows. I put my hands open and out just like this. And when an officer comes up, I want to let you know, I do have a permit and whatever. But he was doing everything that I would have wanted him to do. So they approached with the taser. You can tell that this Officer Gutierrez, it's not even his stop. He wasn't even the primary officer. He's approaching all out of tactics, without the cover of the A pillar, the B pillar, the light system, the engine block, nothing. They just totally disregard. They're like, what kind of felony stop is this? So that's out the window. Then he approached, he's like, I'm going to tase you. I would never tase a driver because I'm not sure if that vehicle is truly in park. If I tase somebody, what happens? We've all been tased before to carry. Your body locks, and you could be on that gas pedal driving straight into an innocent person. I'm not going to take that risk. Pepper spraying a person. Okay, they're in the driver's seat. I'm not going to do that. And then you see him like he don't even know where to put the taser back in it. He's so heightened and just flabbergasted. Shaking up the OC spray. Yes, you see people do that. Shaking up your OC spray is not going to make it stronger. It's not going to increase the potency. If you got time to shake it up, you got time to de-escalate that situation. That's how I saw it.
Right. Well, let me say this too. Especially you mentioned permit. If I have my weapon on me, I'm a concealed carry myself, as I know you are, because you are all about the Second Amendment. We're required by law to tell our officers that you are armed and that you have a concealed carry permit. Not that means that's going to give you brownie points. If anything, may make them more aggressive to you. But thankfully, I have not had that encounter as of yet. Thank the Lord. So, so typically, what you're saying, exactly what you're saying, because I'm reading the complaint as well. They're saying when Mr. Nazario was in uniform, he actually is also a member of the medical corps for the United States Army. So I know that deals with the similar to what you saw in the film Outbreak with Morgan Freeman and Dustin Hoffman. That was the roles that they played. But so again, and I'm looking at the facts that it was that he complied with the officer. He complies with Crocker's signal to slow down and pull over. It was dark. There was no good location in the immediate vicinity to stop safely. So for the benefit of the officer's safety and his own, he slowed down on US 460 below the posted speed limit for less than under a mile until he spotted a well-lighted BP gas station and pulled into the parking lot. So this is still, and it says here, it's only 1 minute and 40 seconds that elapsed.
Absolutely.
So that's very important because is that an escalation or de-escalation? Officers are supposed to de-escalate situations, but what we find, like with the George Floyd case, the George Floyd matter, remember this important thing too. George Floyd was already in the police car.
Yes, he was already handcuffed. He was already handcuffed.
Forget even being handcuffed. He was already in the police car.
He agreed to comply.
Right, and he said he was having breathing problems. He couldn't breathe when he was in the car. So they pull him out and put him on the ground. But then Chauvin and then even another officer lies on top of his back, and I believe that is what killed him. So what we have to remember, and that's very important to play in his death in this murder case with Derek Chauvin. But, I noticed, too, that the prosecutors also threw a curveball, get out pass, because they're saying it could be second-degree murder, third-degree, or manslaughter. And manslaughter, obviously, is the least of the charges. I wouldn't be surprised, however, if he gets that, or even if he walks, because you don't know what those jurors are going to think. There is something It's like with Rodney King. We don't care what was on the videotape. We don't care what's not guilty. It depends, and you have those jurors that are on there. So all of that is going to depend on certain things. Certainly, I see you have the image of Mr. Woodard up as well, but yeah, you got to be but we got to be mindful of these things. It's very important that we pay attention to Mr. Nazario's case and what happened, because I'm seeing though people, of course, even now white people are outraged with it, but they have to eat their words, because remember when all this stuff was going on about respecting our veterans and you stand for the national anthem, there's none of this going on. Well, here you had a veteran who got pepper sprayed, an active duty, that nearly had his life taken from them. So how do you defend that? You can't.
Absolutely. And this brings to mind, I can put this in the comments, but I know I shared it on Instagram, where we're getting back into being, a Black veteran. When I go to page 6 of the civil complaint, the civil action on page 6, block 17, the defendants, the officers, admitted that they knew why Lieutenant Nazario waited until the BP to pull over for his safety and their safety. He had officer safety in mind, with Gutierrez admitting that it happens all the time and that it happens to him a lot. So he's experienced people, failing to immediately yield until they got to a place where they and the officer could be safe. Defendant Gutierrez, he also stated that the maneuver informed him, based on his training and experience, that Lieutenant Nazario was almost certainly, or with at least 80% probability, a minority. 18 states, however, despite knowing why Lieutenant Nazario had waited to pull over at a well-lit public space, with the knowledge that Lieutenant Nazario was almost certainly a minority, the defendants decided prior to pulling him over to report the routine traffic stop as a felony traffic stop and a high-risk traffic stop without justification or excuse. Likewise, without justification or excuse, the defendants chose to immediately escalate the encounter by threatening deadly force and a homicide. And when it comes to the gram factors, being an officer and thinking about, applying how they call it, the tools on your Batman belt. The most important tool you have is your presence and your words, your communication. And that's one of the reasons why I left law enforcement at the time, because we were experiencing, individuals who were in a mental crisis. And a mental crisis is not, a criminal offense. And that's why I chose to leave. I got my degree, which I'm not getting paid for having it, in, psychology, but it made me a better person to interact with the public and also in my personal relationships. But when it comes to use of force, sir, severity of the crime, if I remember this all correctly, severity of the crime, immediacy of the threat, resistance, and flight. Correct me if I'm wrong on those. I haven't used those in a while. But what I have on your screen, being an active duty person, I served in the Hampton Roads area for over 5 years, and I continue to live in that area for an additional 6 years. And being in uniform, being active duty, it does not matter. It does not matter, okay? I've been pulled over on 564 outside of Naval Station, Norfolk, by Virginia State Troopers. I've been issued tickets, even in the jurisdiction I worked in. I was given a ticket in the city of Newport News, and I was stationed in the shipyard, And one of the important things, don't fight, don't fuss, don't flee. And that's words of the elder Neely Fuller Jr. And what that means is, on a traffic stop, we will not have court on the side of the road, okay? I'm going to comply, do what needs to be done, and I'll see you in court with my attorney. So, Attorney Gavin, can you talk to us about, what you would, what would be advisable for a client in this situation? And I know that we can't, go back and say Lieutenant Nazario should have done this, that. He did what needed to be done, and he's allowed to talk about it today. But when it comes to, this situation, what are some tips can you advise to stay alive to your day of work?
Okay, with regards to what happened with Mr. Nazario, I think you do exactly what he did. First and foremost, I would advise everybody to get a camera, invest in getting something like this. I have this. This is a dashboard camera. You can buy them on Amazon. They're not that expensive. You set this camera up. That's one thing. And when you're driving, make sure it's recorded at all times. That's one thing, especially if you get stopped, because there's a record for it. I've seen videos called audit from a YouTuber, I believe, called Audit the Audit. I believe that's the channel where they talk about police encounters with different citizens and people who are First Amendment auditors who will audit their encounters with the police, and they will actually record these encounters. And some of these have saved, I want to say, saved their lives, but most importantly, it actually put the police officers in a bad light with some of the things that they did and gave people up close, personal description of what a lot of these officers should not even be on the force from the stuff that they're doing from that standpoint. The other thing I would tell you all to do is what Mr. Nazario did as well, was keep your hands visible. I was taught when I was a kid, a teenager, and I've been stopped by the cops before, to always, when you get stopped, pull over immediately, wind down your window enough for them to hear you, and keep your hands on the steering wheel. Or you put them outside the vehicle so that way when you stick your hands out, they'll know that you are not armed, you are not a threat to them. Because another thing, like I said before, especially if they ask you where you're going or what you're doing, you don't have to tell them that. Just say, I'd rather just get my ticket, officer. Can you tell me why you stopped me? Well, don't say, what's my ticket for? Just say, can I ask what's the reason for this stop, officer? What's going on? I don't know why you stopped me. I have no knowledge of that. I won't answer any more questions, but you can have my driver's license and my proof of insurance and my state registration right here. Thank you.
And I know that we've now been live for an hour, so do you need like a few minutes break, or do you want to keep going? So I don't want to keep you here all night. I know I'm an hour ahead of you, but I know we've been sitting and talking, and you've been giving us great knowledge for about an hour. You need a break for a couple minutes?
No, I'm good. Let's go.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that. And I put in the chat, ensure you subscribe to Attorney Gavin's. And I'm sorry, I'm getting a phone call as well, because there's some people that want to call in and chime in as well. But now we're getting to thank you for those resources. If you can you send me the information on that camera as well, and I'll put that in the description as well. But we're talking about Isaac Woodard. And if you do not know about Isaac Woodard, he was an Army soldier back in 1946. He was going home by bus to South Carolina. Someone, said that he was causing some kind of disturbance on the bus. And as a result, the officers in that jurisdiction, they responded and they gouged out his eyeballs. So Attorney Gavin, he brought up, this whole thing with being a Black veteran. The uniform doesn't mean anything. Like I said, I've gotten tickets. I know people who have gotten tickets. I have some people calling in, who want to chime in, and I'll probably have them chime in. Like, I don't want to keep you here. I know you're a busy man. You got to go to work tomorrow, but I'll answer those calls in a second. So shout out to them. But remember that name, Isaac Woodard. Also, if you follow me on Instagram, Tieesha Essex on Instagram, I really don't observe Veterans Day because it means absolutely jack shit, okay? In Virginia Beach, just 40 miles, from the town of Windsor, Virginia. I forgot her last name, but our sister India, she was a Navy veteran, and I have her on my Instagram. Forgive me for not remember her last name, but she was actually murdered in the vehicle, and her baby was there with her in the back seat. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So no one gives a shit about you being in uniform, and that's totally unfair, because while you're out, defending the country, you come back and you're still treated like absolute, the dirt of the earth. And to have, that's one thing I never understood. I tried to be that change, be the difference, but I never understood, when you had police officers who were veterans, some even wore, like, on certain departments, they give you a special pin for being a veteran. They still, encounter you and treat you like absolute dog shit. You know what I'm saying? I don't mean to say bad words, but that's absolutely it.
Let me say this too. First off, I do salute I do have respect for all that have served in the military, even you.
Thank you.
I salute you, and you should celebrate your service because this is still your country more than anything and more than anybody. You have fought for it, so you're deserving of respect for that. And I do respect our vets. I will also say to this that I certainly I have family members who have served. My grandfathers, both of them served in World War II. My granddaddy, I don't have it right here in front of me, but I've showed it before. I have a picture of my grandfather from his time during in Europe, in Germany, from 1942 to 1945. He has about 7 or 8 medals, including active European campaign medals. You talk about leadership awards, all types of medals that he has received as a result of his service in the army. My other grandfather, Mr. Anatole Richard, when my mom's father was Arthur Duplessis Jr. My dad's dad was Anatole Francis Richard Jr. And he served in the Navy. He actually flew supplies to off the West Coast to the Pacific Islands, especially in Hawaii, to give to the troops. He flew them also on the boats and stuff when they didn't allow blacks to fly planes back then, but because he was liked by his associates and his comrades and so forth, they let him fly the planes and so forth. And let him fly the planes. And so that was just a touch or a taste of the things that our military veterans, black military veterans, had to go through. Especially, remember, the Army and military armed services was not desegregated until after Harry Truman became president and signed that executive order banning racial discrimination and segregation in the armed forces. But yes, to answer your question, these people do not give a damn about your military service. It doesn't trump white supremacy. We had an incident, remember, in 2019 where this white woman out in Mississippi, who was, I guess, the manager for this, it looks like this public park or so forth, she literally pulled a gun on this black couple, one of whom returned from active duty service in the army. She got fired, and I believe she was charged with aggravated assault and battery because she pulled her weapon on these men. I can't hear you, Tieesha, if you're saying anything. Let me see if
I know I muted myself
Oh,
while you're talking. That's all.
oh okay. I see your lips moving, so I'm looking. She's talking to me or what? Yeah. So, but that was some of the things that black men had to go. We've had to go through in this country. Certainly, Mr. When you look at an example like Isaac Woodard, when they showed up to his trial, he actually had the support of many people, including your Joe Lewis. Joe Lewis actually showed up and walked with him to court when this and escorted him when this was going on. He actually had to sit in the balcony with everyone else during the attack because he was a black man, and his as a result of this, it pressured the Truman administration to push hard for civil rights. So in 1948, as I'm talking about this, he signed the Executive Order 9981. This is what banned racial discrimination or segregation, I should say, rather, because it didn't end racial discrimination in the military, but it banned segregation in the armed forces. Let's not forget also the Tuskegee Airmen. We're familiar with Crispus Attucks. He was the first man to die in the American Revolution. He was black. Prince Whipple, who was a spy and he was actually, I believe, there with Washington when he crossed the Delaware. There was a black man in there. There's a famous picture of Washington crossing the Delaware River, and there you could see clearly a black man that's right next to uh, George Washington. I believe that was Prince Whipple. This is the executive order that was passed in 1940, signed in 1948 by uh, Harry S. Truman. That's what desegregated the armed forces. I'm just sharing our video as well because I like to get more subscribers. even onto your channel and more people to check it out, Tieesha. But yeah,
you are doing great, and I will also download this. So if you want to re-upload it on your channel as well, or make clips, because this is just gold. Like, this is the time here. I ask that you please, contribute and things like that, and I will as well. And I see you shared your page, so thank you. I'm going to put that up. Thank you. It's a time where you can consult with an attorney. You don't have to have them on retainer for a second, but we're going to make sure that we take care of you for New Black Media Appreciation Month, and also celebrate Black Men April 2021. And we've covered a lot, and I just want to say thank you so much. And we're not saying that just because you have a uniform, that you can. It's like a get out of jail free card, but at least have respect for the uniform. Like, I despise officers who smoked in uniform, who got out of shape in uniform. Have respect for it, but also have respect for that person. Like, my mom always told me, when I became a police officer, she was like, you're just a person who gets to wear a costume to work every day. It could be taken away from you, and you're back as square one. So you're no different than the people who you encounter. Treat them with respect, and that always stuck with me. Next on our list.
Also, in that case too, let me just tell you how racist it was as well.
Mm-hmm.
Defense attorney during the trial actually began hurling racial epithets towards Woodard.
Oh, wow. And I'm going to take a drive up there actually to document that as well. So if I have any South Carolina family, please reach out to me, and I will see you soon, because I want to go to Charleston as well.
Yeah, if you rule against Shaw was the one who attacked Woodard, then let this South Carolina succeed again. I'm just trying to read it how he would say it. So, yeah, man. But the jury acquitted this man. 30 minutes to deliberate, at least 15, according to one report. They found him not guilty of all charges, despite the fact that he admitted he blinded Woodard.
And you know what? That's one thing I can't stand. When I would hear people, when we make a video or there's something comes out that talks about the ugly history that our ancestors had.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Tieesha?
Yes, I'm here. I just think that my camera went out, so I'm going to switch to my other camera. I don't know what happened, but it's okay. But I'm here. You'll hear people say, not another slave movie, not another Jim Crow movie, stuff like that. But they will have, a cross on their neck, a cross on their wall. And I'm like, what does that symbolize? That's a murder scene. So you mean to tell me that you get more upset about, your supposed Jesus down on the cross being murdered on the cross versus, people who look like you, who walked your same shoes, who were executed. So those are the things that kind of, tick me off at times. There I am. I'm back. So yeah, when we have these stories, don't be surprised, when we have someone who, tells the story of Isaac Woodard. We have a story of our sister India. We have a sister of my ancestor, Mark Essex. We have a story of our fallen brother.
Essex is from New Orleans.
Absolutely. The true American sniper, okay? But when we have these things that tell us how we stood up and fought back, and how, how racism, white supremacy worked against us, we don't want to hear you say that, because you're gonna act surprised. Oh, this is happening, versus, us put out these stories, we can learn from it, and fight to end this, push legislation to get protections against these things, because these things should not still be happening in 2021. So this takes us to where we're going to start wrapping up. And to those who have called in, I don't want to keep you here, Attorney Gavin, too long, but I'll take your calls in a little bit. I have 10 reasons, 10 minor traffic stops that cops hope turn into a big arrest. And I can speak on this because, these are our actual, things written into code for traffic stops. Okay. And as we saw tonight, failure to display a license plate, however minor that is, we see how that could become a big thing. And that's one thing that pissed me off too, because with Lieutenant Nazario, okay, equipment violation, the officer corrected himself. You're arrested. No, you're detained. You use force. You have him in handcuffs. You unarrest them, and you're like, well, this could mess up your career. They tried to talk to him and kind of sort of give him that Burger King treatment. It's like, no, you escalated force to effect an arrest. And I saw that a lot, and I wrote a lot of complaints on officers you're under arrest for resisting arrest. Do you encounter that a lot, where you have defendants come in and say, hey, I was arrested for resisting arrest, but there's no charge for resisting arrest? Like, you don't have the right to just go and touch people as an officer.
I have, not as much as of late, but I have encountered it. I'm aware of it. Even in Louisiana, I believe they even made resisting an officer, that's what it's actually called, a felony now. Especially in light of the Black Lives Matter protests. You have to keep in mind too, with these police officers and what they do, especially when they throw a resisting an officer charge. If you tell the suspect you're under arrest, natural human reaction, if you're telling somebody you're under arrest, it is a shocking thing. It's something that a lot of people don't expect to go through, and they're shocked when they hear it. So when you get grabbed, when you get pulled by another person, your natural reaction is to jerk, move away. And even the slightest movement like that, or even saying, no, why, I haven't done anything, they can actually use that against you. Like they say, anything you say can be held and used against you in a court of law. So that is not done. That is clearly done on purpose. Why they have that? It's basically an easy cop out. I tell my law students, my criminal law students, about this all the time. That's the easiest charge you can get a person arrested on, is resisting an arrest, resisting an officer. Because if they give you a command, you're detained. They give you a command, you're under arrest, they will and grab you, then that will happen. Another thing to mention also too is that with regards to the resisting charge as well, in Louisiana, I don't know in different states, but we have something called stop and identify laws. Different states have those. Louisiana is one of those that do have that. Texas, I don't believe, has it. I'm not sure about Georgia, but stop and identify basically means that if the cops have reasonable suspicion to believe that you have committed a crime or about to commit a crime, they can actually stop you for a brief period and actually ask you to identify yourself, and you can turn that over. Some states do not recognize it. Others do, like here in Louisiana, but it's only for a limited scope and brief period. It's still, I don't think, is a great law, because
I see that yawn coming in. I'm gonna let you go soon.
Sorry about that. No, but that's to let you know that. But that's actually to let cops stop you and so forth. I don't think it's a great law, because it may be a Fourth Amendment issue. Fourth Amendment, of course, protects you from unreasonable searches and seizures of your persons, places, effects. I forgot the other one. Gosh, person, places, effects, home. Well, home would be places, houses. Yeah.
The home and packages, curtilage, containers.
Curtilage is the outside area of your house, like your gate and stuff, and what goes on in there.
The area that you would maintain.
The area you would maintain. That is correct. So something like that. So I remember criminal law, studying this in school. I mean, when you watch an action movie now, I watch action movies. When I was studying to be a lawyer, I was watching action movies and seeing like 100 crimes. Like I watch Under Siege. Oh, that's that's terrorism. Well, that's justifiable homicide. He's trying to save the ship. That's first-degree murder. That's second-degree murder. That is an assault. That is a battery. Those are things that crimes overlap each other. So that's definitely something that happens. So as far as the 10 minor traffic stops, I guess you want to get into that.
I can actually save this for another vehicle. I mean, another video as well. I can go over that as well, because I will actually be on your channel tomorrow night. So I welcome everyone here to join us tomorrow night. I will actually post the video announcement here in the description because I will be a guest on your channel tomorrow, and we will be discussing gun laws and House Bill 127, correct? That's 127.
Yeah, House Bill HR 127.
HR 127, yes.
There's also, that was passed, and well, it hasn't been passed, but that's something that Sheila Jackson is up. It's called the Sabika Sheikh Firearm Law, or Firearm Act. And everybody should take note and look at it. You can read it on congress.gov. That's the best place to read these things.
Not memes, okay? Don't read memes, all right?
No memes, no. Yeah. What else? But if you want to, so you want to save the 10 minor traffic stops for tomorrow, we could talk about.
Yeah, I'll save them for just a whole nother video that I may just pre-record, put some examples in there. But I want to say thank you to you tonight and everybody for chiming in tonight, because we actually have professionals in the field. We have our brothers here who have invested in their education, in their profession to serve us. And I just want to say thank you to you, Attorney Gavin, and shout out to Nicole's View, because she put me on to you. And when it comes to law and things like that, although I'm not an attorney or a paid attorney spokesperson, I don't even have a paralegal degree, but I'm saying I dedicated my life to it, and I was willing to die to protect the citizens of Newport News and the Commonwealth of Virginia. But it rings true to me. I have two books behind me, which is Slave Patrols, and I'll link that in the comments. And I also have a book called The Spook That Sat by the Door.
That was actually turned into a movie that they did.
Yes, absolutely. And you can watch it here on YouTube. Okay, it's here. But I want to constructively contribute to the community, to the city, to the counties, things like that, and our people.
Did you have phone calls you wanted to take?
Yeah, I'm gonna do a quick phone call to one. It's just someone who wanted to chime in on their experience, in the Hampton Roads area. And I fingers crossed, now invested in all of this equipment. I just want to make sure it works, which is great. So I finally get to call people.
Yay for Guitar Center.
Yes. Shout them out. So let's see if we can hear them. Hello, can you hear me? All right. Let's see. Say something for me. I don't think it's working. Can you hear the caller?
I can't. I can hear him now.
Can you hear? All right. All right, hey, you are live with me and Attorney Gavin. What do you have to add to our discussion tonight? What is your name? Where you come from? Who you are? All that good stuff.
Well, hey, I'm Jay out of Hackensack, New Jersey, by way of Long Island, New York. Just want to say, getting pulled over, like Attorney Gavin said, being in the military, or even being a veteran, it's not, you get trouble law, it's really hit or miss whether it's going to give you a pass or not. I've had times I got pulled over, I showed the ID and said, okay, I don't give out tickets to veterans, have a nice day. Mm-hmm. Other times, I showed them and still got my car searched. And this has happened more than one time here. So, just a good choice for, doing interstate trafficking, for a lack of better description there. So I drive in the car, they say, hey, they ask, hey, do you have drugs? Do you have a lot of cash on you? I've had that happen to me. All the answer is no. I just comply. And listen, even if they ask, can I search my car? I say, go right ahead, because I don't have anything to hide there. And most of the times, I've gotten out without a ticket.
Are you able to hear the call okay? You hear?
I can caller.
Hold on. Okay, I can hear you guys.
Yeah, I can hear
we can hear you.
Okay, cool. Make sure. So yeah, I've had my car searched, and
I think
obviously was able to leave out. Oh, it's there. No, yeah, I mean, obviously.
I think he clicked off. We can hear you.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. So So yeah, obviously in those situations being searched, obviously I'm here to tell the stories here. I mean, and those situations are very uncomfortable there because you don't know what can happen in that situation. I mean, you've seen the videos where it started out great and then situations make a turn for the worse for whatever reasons there. So I'm thankful I was able to make out situations okay and leave with maybe a warning ticket or something like that. But I can say it's very being in that Lieutenant Zario's situation, it's very nerve wracking.
Absolutely. And we're not saying that all officers are bad. We shouldn't, but
no, not at all.
We do know that one bad apple can affect those around them. But hopefully this is a wake up call for change, and to not approach everyone like this. See those you see that are around you as your fellow citizens. You are a citizen, and do things differently. And the police department in Windsor, the chief made the swift action. I don't know swift, but because this was like 5 months ago.
December.
Yeah, 4 months ago, to terminate that officer. So that's one threat off the street, and as a mother, things like that, you want to ensure that safety. So thank you for sharing your experience as well. Attorney Gavin, do you have anything?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna add, to what the brother was saying is about how you're treated. It's kind of a double sword where people may give you certain benefits, but then of course, as a black man, you go through, that really doesn't matter, or to many people, especially in the dominant society, when they have hatred in their heart. The officers, they had to fire this officer because it's just that bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's that bad on video. He escalated it. I think the timing of it all coinciding.
Yes, I am calling up our next caller. So, brother Jason, make sure you check out him on what is it? On our last video, I celebrated Black Men of April 2021 with him as well. Check out his book, Black Sailor to Black Veteran, that is for sale on Amazon. And right now I am with another caller, our good brother Kareem. He is the godfather to my son, and I'm just a great brother overall. You've heard him on the channel before. Brother Kareem, what do you have for Attorney Gavin and our topic tonight?
Well, I just pulled up to my house. So I'm not up to date on your topic.
No problem. We were discussing, your experience if you encountered law enforcement while you were stationed in Hampton Roads, and we were going over the traffic stop in Windsor, Virginia.
Oh yeah, Virginia State Police. It's like if you have those DOD stickers on your car,
mm-hmm.
that automatically makes you a target. And then if you're black with those DOD stickers, you're double the target.
Mm-hmm.
It's been so many times I've been personally pulled over and harassed by not only Virginia State Police, but Norfolk Police, Virginia Beach Police, Hampton, Newport News, that whole little area. It doesn't surprise me to see what happened with what happened to that officer. It doesn't surprise me at all.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And sadly, that brother thought that his uniform was going to give him a pass. And ironically, one of the officers was a veteran. So you would think that common lives would say, okay, I'm a veteran. I see an active duty. He's an officer. I will probably give him some considerations. But in the system of white supremacy, you're black, you don't get those considerations. If that was a white officer, It really don't even have to be an officer. If it was just your everyday E4, E3, they would have got considerations. Yep. I knew a guy on the ship that had 3 DUIs back to back to back. Did not go to jail. Nothing happened to him. The only thing that really happened to him that the ship, because he had 3 DUIs, the ship, he went to mass that Monday, and they kicked him out.
And that's one thing too with the Army. They are, if I'm not mistaken, the Army, they do not wear their rank on their sleeves. It's on their chest. And you heard when the officer approached, what are you, a private or a corporal? He wasn't expecting, a commissioned officer,
Right. Didn't even know what he was.
Even if he identified himself as an officer, I'm a lieutenant.
He still got proned out. Like, okay, why? And that's my thing. That's one thing that came out with George Floyd in his death, and the use of force of Derek Chauvin, the former officer, and those on scene. You don't have to prone somebody out. You don't. The man was on his feet. Okay. Hands behind your back. They wasn't applying kick stops. They wasn't applying anything of that. He was kicking out windows. He wasn't kicking officers. The officers were kicking him. So you do not have to take someone down to prone. That was not needed. Okay. You have someone who has just been OC sprayed, compliant, came out of the vehicle. It's just outrageous. So, and one thing too, I'm happy that you brought this up, and I thank you for calling in. Make sure you subscribe to Kareem Gideon on YouTube, also on Instagram. He also has a future project coming up as well that we are going to dive deep into. But oh my gosh. So the incident in Windsor, Virginia is left up to Virginia State Patrol. And my video a few months ago, when I did the video on signs of imminent assault by cop, that incident was surrounding Virginia State Patrol. So, you're like, okay, they're investigating themselves. I just hope for this reason that the change they keep talking about, that, instead of defunding police, we're going to do police reform and do this, you know what I'm saying? We need to see proof of, because a lot of people are losing their respect and their trust in that, because we're seeing time after time where the cases are being mishandled and, the cover-ups are happening. And so we just hope that they produce justice. And on that note, hope everybody takes a trip over to www.producejustice.com. So thank you, Brother Kareem. I'm going to follow up with you after this. Attorney Gavin, can you let everybody know where to find you, what products you have or projects you have working on? And I know I will see you tomorrow.
You will see me tomorrow. And of course, a couple of projects that I have working on. For one thing, I have a song that's out, as you know, because you brought this up. Under my moniker G Rich, GRI, the cent symbol H, on iTunes. The song is called "Gotta Get On Up." It's a new hit single, especially for 2021, from the past 2020. The past that we've been dealing with is a song to get on up and dance. Working on music. I'm also working on my spice company. And, I have my law firm practice. My website to my law office practice is actually, I'm going to put it in the private chat there, GMRichardLawOffice.com. The best way to do is follow me also on Anchor at Gavin Richard Presents. That is the podcast. If you all could subscribe to that as well. We drop episodes at least every 2 weeks. No, it's GM Richard Law Office there.
I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you.
I'll put what I'm going to do is I'm going to hurry up and put the link to the website right here so everybody could go look at it. But this is it here.
And I will put that in the description as well.
And you guys can email me. You see it in the ticker for the PayPal, gavin.grich1@gmail.com. The YouTube channel is gboot2786, as well as my self-entitled Gavin Richard YouTube page. So I get around like Tupac. So I'm a hustler. So
I was just singing that yesterday. I just want to say thank you so much, and I'm grateful for our connection. And I will be supporting, and I will see you tomorrow. Let your father know that I said hi. He's such a sweetheart, and I will continue listen to your videos in my podcast. And if I must say everybody, I'm from Cincinnati, so if you're familiar with like Midnight Star, you know, stuff like that, the Whispers, you go check out his music. It will have you kind of grooving. I love the throwback jam, so it's perfect. All right, so when you come here to Georgia, you know, we gonna do some karaoke and you know get you on the mic.
well, you know, I'm actually thinking of being in Georgia soon. So
Perfect.
I need a vacation after teaching all these kids. So
Bring me some crawfish and some seasonings. All right.
I will do. I'll bring you. Actually, I have my own seasoning company as well. We're starting Nani, so I may bring you a sample that you could check out. So try it on chicken, meat, or fish. Nani's goes great with every dish.
There you go. You got the jingle. Well, I just want to say thank you to everybody tonight. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you for supporting us for this month. And we will see you on the next video. Thank you for rocking with us. And I just want to say, you know, everything here we said, it was alleged. This is our commentary. Do not take our advice, all like that. Subscribe to us. Connect with us on our other social media platforms. And we will see you on the next video. You have a good night and know that we love you. Stay safe, okay?
All right. Good night. Thank you all. Be safe.
All right.